Right now, new foreclosure laws are on Governor Scott's desk. If he signs them into law, they will dramatically reduce the amount of time people in financial trouble have to fight foreclosures.
Well, last week, the Florida Senate tabled the law, but did so in favor of a bill that had already passed the House. Our Lady of the Law, Allison Emery, is here to explain how the law could impact you if you are facing and or fighting foreclosure. Thanks so much for being here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Really important stuff, and we want to break it down so it's digestible and easy to understand, because it's really important. So let's start first, Allison, with why the need to speed up the foreclosure process?
Okay, well, and that is something that is debatable, whether we need to do that or not. Obviously, the banks would like to speed up the process. There's been a trend or a pattern over the last few years in Florida where foreclosures take a number of years. The reason for that has often been because the banks are so overwhelmed by the volume of foreclosure that actually getting to finality is a difficult process.
The banks and the courts, I would assume, as well.
That's right, and the courts obviously have an interest in moving things along. But unfortunately, for the banks, that has to be balanced with people's rights. And in Florida, we are a judicial foreclosure state. That means that every foreclosure has to pass under the purview of a judge for the judge to ensure that the process is being adequately and accurately followed. All the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed. And that's a really important safeguard for Florida homeowners because it protects against fraud. It allows you to raise defenses to foreclosure that you may be entitled to raise. So,
and offers recourse if your home is wrongly taken from you.
Exactly. Florida has strong laws that protect homeowners and that protect consumers. The law sitting on Governor Scott's desk at the moment, which is House Bill 87, is not it is not the friend of homeowners and consumers. It is something that the banks have promulgated.
Everything in the bank's favor.
Well, that's right. It provides for a system that moves the foreclosures along much more quickly. It does it in many cases behind closed doors. It doesn't provide for the kind of time frame that we're used to where we can raise defenses and the bank has to come back and answer it. It really requires the homeowner to prove the case, not the bank, and the bank is the one bringing the case, and so it really bucks tradition of what we've had in Florida in terms of due process for all these years.
Let me ask you, point blank then, the bottom line, how does this affect homeowners that are finding themselves in this position?
Well, the bottom line, whether this law passes or not, the trend now is to speed up foreclosures. And whether the law passes or not, the judges have made it clear that they don't want these things sitting around on court dockets for years and years at a time. And you know, I think that makes sense and it seems reasonable, especially now that the big crunch of the foreclosure crisis is sort of abating a little bit. But you know, the issue really is that people still are entitled to their due process rights. And if they've been wronged by the bank, they've made payments that haven't been applied, or you know, there are a number of defenses to foreclosure, then they should be entitled to raise those and not have those rights taken away from them.
Now, Allison, as you mentioned in the past, homeowners had some time. Right. And when you're faced with something like that, sometimes that's not your only financial challenge is your mortgage. Right. So you're looking at other considerations like bankruptcy or things of that nature that I'm sure people come to you and there's a time, you need some time to sift through that. So how does that affect then the timetable of those decisions?
It affects it significantly. We often have people come in our office and say, you know, I've been served with foreclosure, my financial situation, I've lost a job, but I'm about to get a new one. I just need some time to get my money together and to get back to where I can pay my mortgage again. Well, unfortunately, we really don't have much time. So the sooner you explore what your rights are and what your options are, the better outcome we're going to be able to help you accomplish. And in some cases, if this bill passes and or if things really do get speeded up, the only option we'll have is bankruptcy for people, because that's really the only other way of stopping a foreclosure in its tracks while people reorganize. What
is the likeliness? Where is this sitting right now with Governor Scott? Does it look like this is going to happen?
Well, there's a very strong movement afoot by consumer advocates and homeowner advocates to request Governor Scott not consider passing the bill.
He'll have to veto.
Essentially, he may sign it or he may veto it, or he may do nothing. If he does nothing, then it passes into law in 14 days. And so there's still time to make yourself heard if you would like to do so. Call the governor's office and tell him what your position is on the issue.
So say this passes, because obviously if it vetoes, then it doesn't pass.
Right. What
if it passes? What are some of the things, if you're sitting out there listening to us right now and you are facing the possibility of a foreclosure, you've gotten that notice, how does that change your world?
That is hugely important, because if it passes, it's actually retroactive. So a foreclosure case that is already in the courts will be affected by the law. It doesn't, you know, many laws are for things going forward. This law is
now
for all existing foreclosure cases.
So if it's already been going on for months,
Right, then now the new timetables apply to you and you didn't know that. So obviously if you are a person who's facing foreclosure, you know, keep an eye on what's happening with the law, but get to a lawyer, get to a legal advisor, get to somebody who can help you understand how it impacts you and what options you have before you lose your house. Because once the judge or the court decides that the bank's entitled to foreclosure, you got about 6 weeks till your house gets sold at foreclosure auction, and then you have no remedies whatsoever.
And the worst thing to do, as we've discussed before, is to bury your head in the sand and hope that this will just go away.
That's right, because it won't, and it's gonna not only not go away, it's gonna move against you much more quickly. So the time to act is right away.
And Allison, this may be outside of your scope, but how does this impact the housing market? Everybody wants to know, okay, so if this happens, how does it affect the rest of the housing market?
Well, there is an argument that allowing foreclosures to move more quickly and allowing those things to take its course will sort of allow the housing market to even out, and so you'll have bank-owned properties going back into private ownership more quickly. In my opinion, that's sort of outweighed by the importance of protecting consumers' rights and the rights of homeowners, people living in their houses who are in financial trouble and trying to reorganize. You know, in my opinion, that's a little bit more important. I don't know the real answers, but that's sort of both sides of the story.
It's been so hard to predict anything in this housing market
exactly.
right now.
It's like the Wild West, we call it.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen.
Or the Wild East out
here. That's right.
Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Always good information. We want to thank the ladies of the law as well for their advice, and thanks to Emery, Kast, and Walker for sponsoring this segment.
Remember, the biggest mistake you can make when facing financial hardship, as you heard, is to do nothing. The legal team of Emery, Kast, and Walker understands what you're going through, and they are there to help good people in bad times. So visit their website at www.jackslawyer.com or give them a call at 904-404-3394 for a free consultation to find solutions to your problem.